Okay, we're going to kind of quickly look at the basics of materials, lighting, and rendering all at the same time in a pretty quick little overview here. So the main thing to get about Blender is that if you make sure you're in object mode down here, you select an object on your workspace. I just have the default cube here. And in properties, you jump over to the materials tab. In the material, you can basically assign a new one if you need to. This has a default popped up right now. And under diffuse, that's the main section where you can pick a color for your object. And you can see as you slide around the color wheel here, you can just pick a random color and assign it to your object. And it'll preview it for you here in the main viewport as long as you are in solid mode. Of course, if you're in wireframe mode, you're not going to see it. So make sure you're in solid mode. You'll see your color pop up there, and you'll also see it in this preview pane here, which is selectable to preview in different methods here that might relatively closely match your object that you're working on. You can also modify the specular value, basically shiny points and how they're going to look, and set other settings as well, such as transparency down below and the other options here. But since we've got a basic color on here, which looks different now and it's green, let's go ahead and render the scene so we can see what that's going to look like. Again, in the properties palette, if we jump over to the little camera icon, that's to render. And the button to image render will take a quick snapshot of our scene here and let us look at it. You can see that this backside here is in shadow currently, so it's showing up dark. The other faces are showing up looking real nice and green because we added that green diffuse color to our default material. So now hit the escape key to make that go away so that you can look back at your model, and let's change a couple things. If we look at this scene, you can see that this is where the camera is currently, and the light is over here on the other side. That's why this one of these sides ended up being in shadow here. So let's play with that a little bit. Flip into top mode, and you can see our camera is down here and our light is here. One thing we could do is just grab the camera with the right mouse click. You could hit G to grab it, or scale it, or rotate it with R and S, and you can move your light around. Now let's plop our light down in a slightly different spot, and you can hit 0 to see what the camera is going to see. So 0 on the numpad shows you what the camera is going to see. I'll hit 7 to go back to top mode, and let's render again and see if anything changed. So it looks like the shadow maybe moved over to another side because we moved our light. So let's go ahead now and escape out of that so that we don't see that image anymore. And the basic idea is that by moving your camera or your light around in your scene, you'll be illuminating different things. Probably though what you'll want to start to do is add new lights. So let's look at that. If we press Shift A, we can add a new lamp. And there are a number of different types, and they will all have different effects in the way that they light your scene. For example, if I do a spot, you can see that there's this area that it's affecting. It dropped it down right in the very middle of my scene. And remember to look at different views, like I just went to the front view so I can see exactly what the range of that light is. If it defaults to down here and my image is up above it, it won't have any effect. So you'll need to move your light up so it starts to affect your object. And anytime you're curious about what it's doing, just go ahead and render the image, and you'll notice that now that really dark shadow that I had on either side is now gone because I added a lamp. So I'm going to hit escape now and show you one more thing in this quick overview of materials, lighting, and rendering basics. Another thing you can do is move your camera. So what I recommend for that is to actually split your views so that you end up with two views. Make one of them show you what the camera is seeing. Okay, so I hit 0 on numpad to do that. And then over in another window, you can start to move your camera around. So I've selected my camera and I'm transforming it, moving it in space. If I move it up in the left window, I see the way that that affects what the camera is seeing. And if I move it back and forth this way, I can see that affecting it. By toggling between different views on the right and moving my camera around in space, let's see if I can grab it here. It's at G actually, just to grab it. I can really line up my shot exactly the way I want. R to rotate the camera, S to, or not really going to scale the camera, so just R to rotate the camera, G to grab it, and then render when you want to see what that image looks like by clicking the Image tab here under the Render tab. And that'll do it for giving you a quick overview of how to set up basic lighting, apply a basic material, and move your camera around to give yourself a render image in the frame that you wanted to see, and previewed through hitting the 0 key on your numpad. 0, again, is what brings up the view from the camera in your scene.